Why positive thinking could have killed you 100,000 years ago. In today's world, we are bombarded with the gospel of positive vibes only. We are told that optimism is the ultimate key to a long, healthy, and successful life. However, if you were to transport a modern positive thinker back to the Pleistocene epoch, they would likely be the first to perish. Evolution does not favor the dreamer, it favors the survivor who expects the worst. To understand why, we must look at the environment of our ancestors 100,000 years ago, where danger was not a metaphor, but a constant physical reality. The human brain did not evolve to make us happy or fulfilled in a modern sense. Its primary and singular directive has always been to keep us alive long enough to reproduce. In the harsh wilderness of the ancient savanna, a positive outlook was often synonymous with lethal negligence. Nature is a brutal teacher that does not offer second chances to the naive. Imagine two early humans, Leo the optimist and Gus the pessimist, walking through tall golden grass near a watering hole. Suddenly, there is a subtle rustle in the brush just a few yards away. The wind is shifting and the silence of the birds is deafening. Leo looks at the rustle and smiles, thinking, it's probably just a gentle breeze or a colorful bird. What a beautiful day to be alive. Gus, on the other hand, immediately feels a surge of cortisol. He thinks, that is a leopard hidden in the shadows, waiting to crush my windpipe. Leo continues his stroll with an open heart and an unprotected neck. Gus grips his sharpened stone tool, scans for the nearest climbable tree, and backs away slowly. If the rustle was indeed just a wind, Leo had a pleasant walk, while Gus suffered a moment of unnecessary stress, but cost to Gus was negligible. But if the rustle was a predator, Leo's lineage ended right there. His positive genes were deleted from the human story in a single bloody moment. Gus survived to father children, passing down his hypervigilant, anxious, and negative brain to the next generation. We are all the children of Gus. This is the foundation of what psychologists call the negativity bias. Our brains are hardwired to prioritize bad news over good news by a massive margin. In the ancestral environment, a false positive error, thinking something is dangerous when it isn't, resulted in a little wasted energy. However, a false negative error, thinking something is safe when it is actually dangerous, resulted in immediate and permanent biological failure. The stakes were never equal. Therefore, the brain developed a better safe than sorry algorithm that remains active in our skulls today. This is why you can receive 10 compliments and 1 insult, but you will lay awake at night obsessing only over the single insult. To your ancient brain, a compliment is just pleasant noise, but an insult represents a threat to your social standing within the tribe. 100,000 years ago, being disliked by your tribe was a death sentence because survival depended entirely on group cooperation. If you were cast out because you were too relaxed or ignored communal duties, you would face the elements and predators alone. Thus, the negative internal monologue that critiques your every move was actually a sophisticated survival tool designed to keep you in with the group. Our ancestors had to be worst-case scenario simulators. They had to imagine the worst possible outcome of every action to mitigate risk. They couldn't afford to manifest a good harvest. They had to worry about drought, pests, and theft every single waking hour. Anxiety was not a disorder back then. It was a high-functioning radar system that allowed humans to outsmart faster, stronger, and more lethal animals. When we feel stressed today, it is simply our ancient survival hardware running modern software that doesn't quite fit the current landscape. The amygdala, the brain's alarm center, is still looking for leopards in our spreadsheets and predators in our social media notifications. It reacts to a snarky email with the same physiological intensity as it would to a physical ambush, flooding our bodies with adrenaline. This explains why positive thinking often feels like a lie we are telling ourselves. It is because we are arguing with 2.5 million years of evolutionary data. Your brain knows that the world is a place where things go wrong, where resources run out, and where people can be treacherous. To the primitive mind, "don't worry, be happy" sounds like an invitation to get eaten. It feels inherently unsafe to let our guard down. The optimism bias does exist in humans, but it usually applies to our own abilities, not the external environment's safety. Even the most positive ancient humans still had to be masters of suspicion to reach reproductive age. They had to doubt the safety of every new cave. They had to doubt the intentions of every wandering stranger from a rival clan. Trust was a luxury earned through blood and time, never given freely. If you were too open-minded about a new type of berry without testing it for toxicity, you wouldn't live to see the next sunrise. Pessimism was effectively the first form of scientific inquiry, a way of testing the world for hidden lethality. The drive to seek out the negative is why we are so obsessed with news and gossip. We are hungry for information about potential threats. We don't need to be told the sun will rise. We need to be told where the fire is, where the disease is spreading, and who is lying to us. In the modern world, this makes us prone to doom scrolling. But 100,000 years ago, doom scrolling the environment kept your family alive. The toxic positivity we see today, the insistence on ignoring pain or risk, would have been seen as a form of madness by an early hunter-gatherer. They lived in a world of limits. They knew that if they didn't worry about winter during the summer, they would starve in the cold. Nature does not care about your mindset. It cares about your preparedness and your ability to anticipate gravity, hunger, and teeth. This is why we still feel a gut feeling of dread. It is an ancient warning system that bypasses the slow, logical parts of our modern brain. If a prehistoric man ignored his gut feeling because he wanted to stay positive, he likely became a cautionary tale for the rest of the tribe. The inner critic that tells you you're not good enough is also a relic of this survival mechanism, forcing you to improve so you aren't a burden. A burden to the tribe was a risk to the tribe. Therefore, the negative self-talk was a drive toward competence and utility. We must realize that our current epidemic of anxiety is actually a testament to how successful our ancestors were at being worried. We are the elite survivors. We are the descendants of the most paranoid, most careful, and most negative people to ever walk the earth. If they had been chill and relaxed, none of us would be here today to discuss the merits of positive thinking. Today, we try to suppress these feelings with therapy and medication, which are necessary for many, but we must also respect the source. Your brain isn't broken when it thinks of everything that could go wrong. It is performing a task it has perfected over eons. It is trying to save your life from a threat that no longer exists in the way it once did, but the impulse remains unchanged. The positive thinking movement often ignores the biological reality of our fear circuitry. It tries to build a house without a foundation. To truly find peace, we shouldn't try to kill our negative thoughts. We should thank them for their service, and then decide if they are still relevant. We can say to our brain, "Thank you for worrying about that leopard," but it's actually just a typo in a text message. We are safe. The paradox of the human condition is that we must learn to be positive in a body that was built to be negative. Recognizing this conflict is the first step toward true mental health. It removes the guilt of not being happy all the time. Happiness was never the goal of evolution. Survival was. And survival required a very sharp, very dark, and very suspicious imagination. The next time you find yourself worrying about the future, remember Zog and Gus from 100,000 years ago. You are feeling exactly what you were designed to feel. You are a biological masterpiece of risk management. Your negativity is not a flaw. It is the reason your ancestors lived through the ice, the lions, and the hunger. In the end, the ability to think negatively is the greatest gift our ancestors gave us. It is the shield that guarded the light of humanity. We should honor our anxiety as a guardian, even as we learn to tell it when it can finally take a well-deserved rest. For 100,000 years, positive thinking was a dangerous gamble. Today, we have the luxury to try it, but our blood remembers the truth. Stay vigilant, stay cautious, but also learn to breathe. You have already won the greatest survival race in history.